Yeah. Okay. So the right cone. What do we need to know for the right cone? We do not care about slant height for the right cone. We need to know our height down to the center. So we need to know our h and we need to know our r. Okay, and those will fall at 90 degrees to each other. And the volume of a cone is 1/3 pi r squared h. Okay. The right cylinder actually makes more sense to have done first, because if you draw your two circles, right, this is your r, this is your h, and the volume of a cylinder, which is actually called a circular prism, a cylinder, a circular prism, is area of the base times height. So volume is area of the base is a circle, right? So pi r squared times height. Now do you see kind of the similarity between the first two formulas? Because actually, if you go and you take and you cut this off, you're actually left with 1/3 of the volume. Okay, 2/3 goes bye-bye, 1/3 is left. Sort of, but not really. Okay, so that's where, okay guys, the comments are bugging people, right? So we gotta, okay, now your right prism. Now prisms are named by their base. So if we had a, oops, should have done that right over top. Oh, I need this. Okay, now this would be what we call a right prism, and it is done by length, width, and height. So this one is the easiest of all, length times width times height. But just so you know, it's still area of the base times height, right? Pi r squared. If it was a, now the right pyramid is if you took, put a dot there, you don't have to do this on yours, and if you went like this, you would have a right pyramid. Now, by looking at the right cone, if I cut away all that, I am left with 1/3. Same thing with the right pyramid. If I cut that away, I would be left with 1/3 as well. Okay, so let's just draw this quick. So we have okay, so in this case here, we would have our length, width, but our height will come from the center.
Are we ever going to have to worry about slant height during volume?
Never. The only time you have to is never. So volume is 1/3 length times width times height. Okay, you can probably always remember that volume was the easier, surface area was the tougher, the more work. Okay? Okay, so now remember what I was talking about yesterday? We want to be doing the FSA. Okay? So F stands for formula. So for your F, volume is length times width times height. That's a rectangular prism. Volume equals 6 centimeters times, you can use a dot if you want, or brackets, 8 centimeters times 5 centimeters. That's our substitution. Then A stands for our answer. Volume is 240. What would be my units? Centimeters cubed. Okay. Okay. Another quick one here. F is my formula. Volume is pi r squared, the area of the base, times height. Substitution. Volume equals pi. What's r? Good. 1 meter, right? Because our radius is 1. And they put the 2 there just to see if they'll get you. We'll see how many people I can catch tomorrow. Hopefully nobody. And we're going to square that times 5 meters. Okay? And everybody's using their pi button, right? Let's use our pi button in our calculator. Hey, it's easier, less work, and more correct. So that's going to give us 15.7 meters cubed. Okay, so this is a pipe. Okay, so the way this works is this is the solid pipe. Okay, so the solid pipe, we don't want to find out how much air is inside. I want to find out how much steel is in this volume. Okay, so how would I do that? Yeah? Yes. Find the volume if it was a complete solid. Then we'll subtract out the volume of the air. So it would be like volume total would equal volume of the solid minus the volume of the inside air. Okay? So that's what he said, put in a formula. Now, that's going to equal, because that is a circular prism or cylinder, pi r squared h minus pi r squared h. Now, what letter is going to be the same in both of them? The height. The height's the same. Is the radius the same? No. Okay, but that's going to be the tricky part. Not this one. Okay, so this would be pi. What would be my radius? 5.5 centimeters squared times 15 centimeters. So we have said that here to the outside is 5.5. What would be, so we got to go minus pi. What would be the radius of the air? 5 centimeters. Why? Because this is 0.5 here, right? But we're just talking the radius. Wouldn't we take 0.5 just off the radius, right? So our air from here to here would be 5 centimeters, right? So we're going to put 5 centimeters down. Now, do you understand how, to me, this step is the most important step, right? I don't really care if you if you screw up in your calculator, I'm going to be, no biggie. You just put in your calculator wrong, right? But if I see this, I'm happy. Yep. Okay, right here. The pipe is 0.5 centimeters. Yeah, no, that's a good question. I should have done that. I'm going to do this. Okay? I can guarantee you're not the only one that didn't know where I got that from. Okay? So, try and put this all into, okay, Hisham, just focus here. Try to put that into your calculator all in one thing. Don't be pressing equals until it's all in there. You should be scared. Yeah, be afraid. Be. Okay, what do we got? Yeah, we want to go to the nearest tenth? Yes. 247.4 centimeters cubed. Okay, so we've got a Toblerone bar. You've probably ran across one of these in your lifetime. It is what shape? Putting up your hand, don't yell it out. What shape is this? The back there, yeah. Oh, he's cheating. No. Hexahedron, all the sides would have to be the same. Yes. Very good. Because right now, it's not sitting on its base. This, if you can see up here, this is how it's sitting, right? But that's not the name of it till you put it up. Okay? Now if you move something like this to this, does it change volume? No, that would be very weird if it did. Okay? Right. Touché. But it would have already spilled. Yeah. That's a whole other problem. Okay? So it is the area of the base times the height. What is, okay, hand up, what's the formula for this? Because once we know this, we're just going to go and multiply it by height. Yes? Very good. So our formula, I'm going to actually write this down first, so it's always area of the base times height. Now why isn't this the base? Because it's a rectangle. Why can't you say, oh, I'll do it that way? The rules for a prism is all sides must be perpendicular to the base. That's not perpendicular. If you put it this way, all the sides are perpendicular to the base. That's how you'd find the base. Okay? So we said that volume equals 1/2 AB times height. Okay? Now, we don't have A. But we do know, I'm going to maybe give this away, that this is a equilateral triangle. So we actually can find A. Because if we go like this, oops. And if I move that down here, what's the base? 2.1 centimeters, is it not? The hypotenuse would be 4.2 centimeters. So we can find A, can't we? Okay? So A equals the square root of C squared minus B squared. A is the square root of 4.2 squared minus 2.1 squared. So I'm going to, A is 3.6373 centimeters. And see, I'm not rounding it to 3.6 or 4 because I would have a pretty bad final answer. It would be very off. Okay? But now that I know A, I can put it in here. Is my base going to be 4.2 or 2.1? 4.2, okay? Because It's always okay. That was for our little triangle. That was a different base. Okay. So it's just a matter of putting it in there. Volume equals. Now, for those people that do not like fractions, you can hit a 0.5. A is times 3.6373 centimeters times 4.2 centimeters times our height, 26 centimeters. Okay, and just to speed things up, I'm going to give you the answer because that's the easy part. 198.60 centimeters cubed. Okay, so number 4 is kind of like what you were talking about that you were struggling with in the homework, is you got to go backwards, right? They're going to give you the volume, and you got to work backwards. Now, what I want to do with you is I want to teach you how to do this without numbers first, because it is a great skill to learn. And the better you learn it, the better you're going to do in all of your math and all of your sciences, okay, chem and physics in particular. But I'm going to write out the volume for a cone is 1/3 pi r squared h. Now, I can shove a bunch of numbers in, divide them out, and stuff like that, but that's just not as fun. Okay? I want to actually, this says determine the radius. Therefore, I need to have r equals, or r all by itself. Okay? Now give me a suggestion, one thing to do to get on that pathway. Yes? You can't move r over, okay? That's actually not even a, we can only do addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, right? Yep. Okay. Well, you wouldn't, you would divide by, I would get pi, right? I agree with that. You would divide by h. I agree with that. But what would I do to get rid of the 1/3? If I times this side by 3, will I get rid of that? So you'll do that as well. So, did everybody see what I did? I divided by pi, divided by h, divided by pi, divided by h to both sides. If you do it to both sides, it's all good. And then I multiplied both sides by 3. So now I have 3v over pi h equals r squared. So I can square root this side and I can square root this side. So you have actually developed your own formula for finding the radius of any cone. Now, this is an excellent thing to be able to do. Make your own formulas, okay? And even when I was in physics 30, there was, for every formula, like in this formula, there's 4 you could make. There would be students in the class that would memorize all 4, right? Then for the next formula, there might be 6 that you could make from it. They would memorize all 6. So they're memorizing over 40 formulas to walk into a test. And like on your formula sheet, volume equals pi r squared h is, they will give you that one formula. Do you have to memorize all the rest? Do you have to memorize the formula to solve for h? Do you have to memorize the formula to solve for r? No. If you know how to do algebra, you just do the algebra. Okay? Now sometimes out of sheer redundancy, you start to actually memorize them, right? But that's not the point. I do not want you sitting down memorizing formulas. So now we have everything we need. So let's just plug it in. We've got 3 times the volume is 300 meters cubed. We've got pi, and our h is 8 meters. Okay, now obviously we also want to be plugging this into our calculator correctly. And that's why you want to get the TI-83 plus or the TI-84 plus in grade 10, so you get good at your calculator by the time you get to the diploma, because it takes 3 years to master that calculator. Okay, so I'm just gonna this takes a little while to come up. Okay, so this should be how we're putting in. We're going to put our square root sign. Now, because I have to take a top and divide it by a bottom, you want to put another bracket. And you'll see why in a second. So this would be 3 times 300. And I'm going to close. That's the top divided by, if you don't put your top in brackets, it really messes things, times pi is second pi right there. Right? Everybody sees this right here is pi. Or right there. And you use your second pi. And then I have to open up a bracket again. Oops, wrong one. And I am going to put pi times 8. And then I'm going to shut the bracket. I want you to see this, right? You see this bracket and this bracket out here say I want it all under the square root sign. These two together mean top. These two together mean bottom. Okay? And then you should get 5.98, or to the nearest would be 6 meters. Now I want you to watch this. I'm going to do it without brackets. 3 times 300 divided by this one might work. Sometimes they do work, so this might not be a good, but many times they don't if you leave your brackets. So times pi times 8. Please don't work. Okay? Is that evidence enough that if you don't put your top in brackets divided by your bottom in brackets, you're going to get it wrong? Okay? So, you know, when you're doing your study sheet, that is something I would put down, right? I would even put the correct way to put that one in, and I'd write down the incorrect way. It's good study stuff, right? It's good to be able to give you that heightened. Okay. Okay, so this is the correct way. This is the wrong way. And man, does that mess students up. They're like, I thought I knew what I was doing. They're at home struggling. Why am I getting the wrong answer? I have the right formula, all this stuff. And your calculator is the tool. If you do not know how to use the tool, so I'm going to write this down where we got 5.98. What's the units?
Meters.
Meters, right? Because radius, not meters cubed. This isn't volume. So R is 6 meters. Why? It says round to the nearest meter. Okay. So there's your assignment. We're going to get right down to work. We're not going to be talking or bugging anybody, because some people do not have the time after school. They've got to work, or they've got to babysit younger brothers and sisters. And if you've ever tried to do math while that's happening.
Last class I didn't have questions, or last school I didn't have a chance to get the textbook. So is that upstairs later?
Yeah. Take your ID card with you.
Which tab are we
You would be,
First period?
yeah, it says, yeah. Which one? Maybe I'll come and see what you're doing. Ooh, there's should stop recording.